What's up, y'all? Kyle Hamilton here. I want to give a quick shout out to Lucas, Connor, and Ryan in the Week Zero podcast.
Jackson rolling out, 3rd and 7 after the penalty, and it's a completion to Kuma. He's still running. Kuma breaks free against a tire defense as the Hokies deliver the dagger here in Tallahassee. Empty look for Richardson. Oh, that is danger! Oh my! Keidron Smith cuts inside, and he's gonna six it in the swamp. Cat scratch fever Smith.
DJ is picked off, intercepted again by Benjamin Morrison. Here goes Morrison down the sideline. Can he go? Yes, he can. Touchdown, pick six, Benjamin Morrison. Nix drops back underneath. Touchdown, Ducks. Wow. Chase Porter. All right, let me get this. Welcome everybody to a new episode of The Gold Standard. I am your host Ryan Fravel, here with my buddy Sean at ND Forever on Twitter. We are back. Been another long week. Notre Dame got a lot of commitments in last week, so we're here to cover everything. So anyway, Sean, how have you been the last week? What's life been like, man?
It's been great, man. I'll tell you that every time I see that intro, I always get excited. It makes me ready for college football.
Man, I'll tell you what, even if it's not Notre Dame highlights, you know, we got a bunch of guys on this Week Zero podcast that are different fans of different teams. I don't care what team it is. Anytime you hear Gus Johnson's voice,
yeah,
it's always ready for college football season, man. Can you believe we're only 4 months away? 4 months.
It's close. It really is. Like, you think, like, oh, that's so far, but like I'll tell you, like almost like probably halfway through this month, like Notre Dame starts in August, right? Mm-hmm. So literally, like, what are we in May, June, July, August? That's 3 months.
Oh man.
That's crazy.
Especially that Week Zero game. We get to play Week Zero for the first time in God knows when.
It's exciting. I'm hyped for it. It's going to be interesting. But yeah, I've been doing great. We got all adjusted in Georgia. Everything got delivered this past week, so we've been unpacking, and looks like everything's set. Wife goes back to work tomorrow, and then we're just getting adjusted to like normal stuff. Speaking of Georgia, we just moved to Warner Robins, Georgia, home of Notre Dame commit. If you want to do the honors, Ryan.
I got you. Isaiah Kanian from Warner Robins.
What are the odds of that? Literally, the week that I move here, we get a commitment. It's not luck. I mean, you're welcome, Irish Nation. That is because of me, right there.
I mean, go ahead.
But all seriousness, I mean, he's a freak. He reminds me of Flores a little bit. I don't know if that's because of his look, but I wouldn't have him as a top 100 player like On3 has. I would probably have him around 150. But this is great depth, great get for the Irish, and I think that this receiver class is even better than last year's.
Yeah, for sure, man. And like, for me personally, I think he's a top 100 receiver, and in that respect, I think that maybe it's just weirdly enough, a lot of Notre Dame fans, whether or not they believe it or not, always believe that these companies like 24/7, Rivals, ESPN, that they, are against Notre Dame, and anytime a kid gets an offer from Notre Dame or, commits to Notre Dame, that their stock goes down. His surprisingly has went sky high. I believe this week he actually just picked up 2 new offers from Georgia and Auburn. Alabama is looking to offer him as well. So anytime, Alabama and Georgia see, hey, Notre Dame's looking at this kid. Let's give this kid an offer. Obviously, this kid can play, man. I like he kind of reminds me of that, yeah, like that Rico Flores type. Now he's a little bigger than Rico Flores, um, but he just seems like a flat out playmaker to me, man.
Yeah.
So I mean, what are your thoughts on him? I mean, do you think he's a kid that can come in and maybe contribute as a freshman, or do you think he's a developmental piece?
That's tough to say because I feel like the people you expect, like the Jordan Johnson comes in and you expect them to be like the focal point as a freshman and they do nothing. But then like Jaden Thomas, who a lot of people were saying he was slower, would probably switch to a tight end maybe, and he ends up breaking out. So that's very tough. But yeah, I wouldn't say as a freshman breakout. I'd say he might contribute a little, but I'd say probably a sophomore, junior is where he would thrive. I will say I think moving here kind of makes me a little nervous about his recruitment because literally everywhere I go, I see Georgia, 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 Georgia. I mean, they won 2 straight natties, and I'm in Georgia, so it's going to happen. But now with a new offer, that does make me a little nervous. Just being here, seeing what it's like with that. But there's no reason to assume he wouldn't stick to his pledge. But I think he can. I'd say junior, he's going to get probably be a starter. I'd say he gets some decent playing time as a freshman, but the room's too stacked next year. You have our freshmen becoming sophomores. Jaden Thomas will likely come back, and Cam Williams is a beast. I just don't see the room being open yet for him. I can see him being redshirted.
No, I mean, obviously, I kind of agree with what you said there because, all props to Chansi Stuckey and that receiving, staff. What a job Chansi Stuckey has done just the last few years receiver recruiting for Notre Dame. I mean, when's the last time Notre Dame has had back-to-back wide receiver classes that are absolutely stacked? I mean,
I've never.
This is a good problem to have, man. We got 6 guys coming in. We had 4 with Caleb Smith added in late, and now we got 3 more guys, probably 4 if Jason Robinson ends up committing, which, from everything I've heard, looks like that's going to be the case. So, I mean, how do you expect Notre Dame within the next few years able to keep everybody in that room happy? Especially when you've got guys like that with Isaiah Kanian and another guy we'll talk about here coming up. I mean, what do you think the coaching staff is going to do?
What they should do is explain to them, some of these guys didn't start right away. We need to develop you a little bit. Them get their time when the time comes. I mean, the college football has gone from that type of developmental phase to the I need and want to play now. And that's why the transfer portal is so huge. But it's not going to happen. I mean, realistically, this is a good problem to have. So it's not a problem, right? Let's say, we have 8 really good wide receivers, 2 transfer out. I mean, depth is extremely important, and I wouldn't want them to transfer out. But it's a good problem to have, all these good players battling. They get beat out. The better players are playing. They leave. We might get a backup piece in the transfer portal or something. So it's going to be a tough message. Marcus Freeman, I mean, it's not going to be hard to listen to him with his voice. He's just so soothing and calm, right, when he talks. If he's like, hey, Isaiah, you're going to redshirt this year, but, man, if you keep getting it in the weight room, you're going to be a focal piece next year or the year after. If you hear that, that's motivating from him, So it's tough. What do you think?
I think it's one of those things where you might have to start having conversations with kids. That's the reason that we'll get into it in here a little bit, but that's why Styles left. Is everything I heard was Freeman pulled him aside and said, "Hey, we'd love to have you here. You're not going to play. If you do, it's very few snaps. we would like you to try out at corner, but I'm not gonna lie to you. And I think kids actually have more respect for coaches like that instead of what Brian Kelly would do
Weasel.
is lie to kids to keep them around, a la Phil Dracovic, um, and say, hey, you're gonna be the guy. You're gonna be the guy. You're gonna do this. You're gonna play for a lot for us. Blah 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 blah, and then completely just screw those kids over out of a year of eligibility or two. So I think that a lot of these kids have respect for Freeman about that. Um, but overall, before we'll get to Micah Gilbert here coming up, but last thoughts on Kanyon. I mean, you watched his tape there. What do you like about him, and what do you think he brings to the table to this Notre Dame offense?
Physicality, like you said. I mean, he just finds a way to get to the ball. He's not the flashiest receiver in the world to me, but he's very consistent, and I think that's important to have.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I love his explosiveness. I love his physicality from off the line.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be a really good key component going forward for this Notre Dame team. Moving on, Notre Dame got another wide receiver commit in Micah Gilbert, who, oddly enough, the staff did not offer until last month. And can you believe how fast they locked that kid up just from offering him last month?
He's staying. That dude's staying.
I mean,
how fast he committed, he wants it.
Hey, anytime you can take a kid that Michigan wanted really bad, some Michigan fans will say that they didn't, which is just a flat out lie because I have a buddy that is a diehard Michigan fan and said they were the top target for them. Anytime you can get a kid like Micah Gilbert, I mean, you'll take it, and especially if you're taking him away from a team like Michigan.
Notre Dame fans are the same. I mean, I'm going to say it like with the Smiths, the twins, right? Oh, we were looking at other defensive line targets. No, we really liked the Smiths, and if they committed, we would have probably taken them. They probably liked Michigan, and Notre Dame was also not as recruiting them as hard as Michigan was probably, and looking at other topics. I mean, other defensive players like Elijah Rushing, Justin Scott. But I do think that people can't brush off saying, "Oh, we didn't want them." I mean, that's a recruiting argument. I mean, that's tough. But like Michigan wanted Gilbert. Period. They wanted him. Notre Dame got him. This dude's a beast. He really is like. When you watch him, I mean, he seems like a player that right away can play.
And you know what I like the most about him is he's very tall, lengthy, very physical at the point of attack. When he goes up for those jump balls, not scared of contact. Like I think we just saw a couple plays back where he mossed two guys. I love the approach Notre Dame's going here, where they're getting not just tall receivers. Because we've had tall receivers before. Chase Claypool, Miles Boykin, among others, who had the size, but they just didn't have the speed to get open a lot of the time. So I like that Notre Dame's switching it up here, getting guys that are tall and lengthy, that are physical, but also have the route running ability and the speed to get open on a consistent basis. Now, Micah Gilbert, I mean, what do you like about him so far? Just watching his tape, and what do you think he brings to the table for Notre Dame?
He's very. I mean, you see him here just blocking, right? Look at that. He was pushing that defensive back all the way down the field. I mean, the one he just. It's tough because, like you mentioned, his size, right? And I see what you mean with the Claypool, what you mean with the Boykin, but he's different than them. Like they couldn't get separation; they would just catch over people. He can do both. That's what I see from him. Like he can separate, get open, or it's weird. When I look at him, he reminds me a bit of Claypool mixed with Tobias Merriweather. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what he reminds me of. I like him. This receiver class is so good. Like, it's so good. I like all of them. Cam Williams is obviously
my favorite as of most people if I had to go based on that. But he's going to be another player. He might be the Jaden Thomas of this class. You know, the one that's not the highest ranked in the class of receivers, but ends up doing better than the higher ranked ones.
You know what's crazy? He's the lowest ranked out of all three. And he can flat out ball, man. I mean, a lot of Notre Dame fans will be like, oh, well, don't expect much from the guy that's the lowest in his class. I mean,
Joe Alt was a 3-star and then went up to a 4-star like very late in the process. But it's okay to have a 3-star. It's okay to have a low 4-star. Jason Anya is another example. Developmental, right? It's extremely important to have guys to develop. Not saying he is that type of guy. I do think he's more talented than a developmental guy. But I mean, this receiver, it's too good. This receiver class is arguably going to be top 3 in the country by the time it's over with.
Let me ask you this really quick, and then we'll go ahead and move on to our next recruit. What do you think what recruiting classes of right now do you think is better, 2023 or 2024 in terms of wide receiver recruiting?
24.
24? Okay.
Yeah. 24 is better in general. And if they can land Justin Scott or Elijah Rushing, just one of the two, then it's better. Total.
Could you imagine how good that class would be? Elijah Rushing, Justin Scott, CJ Carr, Cam Williams.
I mean, it's tough because they shouldn't lose on Scott, period. Like, this dude, it's like a slam dunk. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Will Shipley, like a slam dunk. So please don't. I got a feeling Miami might swoop in, though. But this wide receiver class, like, if you compare from top to top, Cam Williams versus the number 1 ranked wide receiver, I think it depends on what you look at, but I think it might have been Braylon James. No. Yeah, Braylon James. I'd take Cam Williams. Then the next highest ranked was Jaden Greathouse. And then you compare that to
Isaiah Canyon.
I probably like Greathouse. But then you look at
Micah
Rico
Gilbert.
Flores compared to Micah Gilbert. I take Gilbert. And then you look at Caleb Smith compared to we're about to get Robinson.
Yeah, Jason Robinson.
I'd take Robinson. So when you look at it like just total, and I like this class because you look at the length, they're all over 6 foot except for Robinson, who's like 5'11", and then it's like half of them have really good weight on them, and half of them are undersized a little bit. So it's very balanced. Like they have so much to work with. Like these receivers have unique tools for each of them. So it's going to be extremely interesting. Like
for sure.
It's tough to think like how they are going to get playing time right away though.
Yeah, that's the thing. You probably have a few transfers. But really quick, so we'll go ahead and move on to our next commitment that we got. This was one of the first that we got last week. 3-star linebacker Cole Mullins. I believe he's a linebacker or an edge, one of the two.
Yeah.
And so, first, before we get into the tape, I wanted to ask you this because I saw this a lot on pretty much every single message board. That Notre Dame actually wanted Cole Mullins over the Smith twins. Me personally, I didn't see it. I thought Cole was the better player. Or not Cole. I thought the Smith twins were better. Now, I love Cole's speed. I think he's just really raw. I think the Smith twins have the higher floor, if that makes sense. Cole doesn't. I like that. I guess I got to trust Marcus Freeman here, but what are your thoughts on that whole debate that, Notre Dame wanted Cole Mullins over the Smith twins? Because I even had an interview with the Smith twins' mother and father on my other podcast I do, and they were telling us that, because I asked them about those reports, and they said that they found that out last week at one of the camps the Smith twins were doing, and they were saying that's news to us.
Yeah.
I mean, they said Freeman contacts the Smith twins almost every day.
Yeah.
So does Al Washington. So, what do you think about? Do you think there's some validity to that? Do you think they wanted Cole Mullins more, or what do you
I,
think happened
I
there?
I don't think it was a more or less. I do think Jacob is. If I'm throwing it out there, Jacob for me is. They're both extremely talented, but Jacob's my favorite of the two twins. Um, but I think it was more of like a. We are offering the Smiths. The Smiths are taking a while to commit. We're going to offer Cole, and there's going to be a spot open. And obviously, the twins are a package deal. So if Mullins commits, the other spot that spot's taken, right? So I think it was they liked all three, and Mullins was the first to commit, right? I mean, you're not gonna. It's tough. I do think that they probably preferred the Smith twins, like I said. But I'm gonna say this right now: Mullins is my favorite defensive commit so far.
Really?
Yes,
Why is
and I see him as an edge, like you were saying, right? And he plays in the toughest division of football in Georgia. He's going to rise his senior year. He's going to be a 4-star. I'm telling you. Mark my words, this dude's going to be a 4-star. But he's very, look at this. Watch this clip right here. He's bigger than them. Toughest division of football, and he's just pushing. He's going to the football. He's just so. He reminds me of. It's bad to say, not bad to say, but he's an undersized version of Vernon to me. If we're comparing the last class to this,
Okay.
I just see him rising up the rankings. I really do. He wasn't utilized much, which is why he's a 3-star. But this year he's, it's fully his time. He plays in the toughest division in high school in Georgia, right? He's got to be good if he's starting, right? He's extremely talented. I think he's undervalued by Notre Dame fans. I think people just look at the 3-star and assume he's not that good. But he's pretty.
For me personally, I love Cole. I just thought, as of right now, I thought Jacob was the better player. I think as of right now, Jacob is. And it wasn't because of the 3-star or anything. I love Cole. I think Cole's going to be a stud when he gets to Notre Dame. I just thought that, Jacob was the better player. I thought Jacob was better than his brother Gerard.
Yep, agreed.
So, I mean, I'm not going to hate on the kid. I love what I've seen from Cole on tape. I think he also kind of reminds me of a smaller Drew Tranquil that rushes the edge because he's very physical, very fast off the snap. He's not going to miss many tackles, as we've seen. So I like the kid personally. I think he's going to be a stud when he gets to Notre Dame. But I just wanted your thoughts on that first because I know I just thought that was kind of weird that Notre Dame would be like, oh, well, we want Cole more than you, so we're going to stop talking to you.
Yeah. That didn't work like that. Like they all recruit. I'm sure they're probably still talking to the Smiths, right? So
they actually told me Gerard Smith Senior told me that actually Al Washington. This was last Wednesday. That morning, had actually talked to Jacob and asked him what are the chances of him still coming to Notre Dame after Cole Mullins' commitment. And Jacob said he was very much open to it. So all the other stuff I've seen, I got it from the source. So I feel like I would trust the dad more than I would Notre Dame beat writers.
I agree. So I just don't see him as much as I would love it. I just see him and his brother as a package,
Yeah. So next up, we got Notre Dame Irish Legacy, 4-star edge. Bryce Young, not the quarterback. I'm sure we would love to have Bryce Young as the quarterback at Notre Dame, but he's playing for the Panthers right now. So anyway, what do you think about Bryce Young as a player? Obviously, son of former Irish legend Bryant Young. who is, I believe, in the College Football Hall of Fame.
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, what do you think? Do you think is he like his dad? Do you think he's as good as his dad? I mean, what do you see?
That's tough. His dad was really good. It's going to be hard to live up to his dad, and I feel like fans are going to put that expectation on him, and he might not live up to that. But he's extremely talented. I think it was ND Recruiting who gave this comparison, and I really liked it. He said that he reminds him a lot of Keon Keeley. How early in the process he was lower, right before his senior year, and his senior year he blew up. He's got the size. He's a big dude. Big dude.
Yes.
So I'm going to say that comparison because I agree with ND Recruiting. Is Keon better? Yes. Keon's a different breed. But he does remind me, and I think he'll be a top 150 player when it's after his senior year.
Done. Yeah, I agree. I love his explosiveness off the line. He's very quick and physical with his hands. I mean, you can see here in just these highlights we're watching, just flat out just shrugging players out of the way, whether it's an offensive lineman or a running back coming to chip him. Just, he's powerful, man. I love his length. His arms are very long. I love that. So I think he's going to be really good. And might be a hot take, but I thought he was better than Jacob. I watched both of them. I think he's better than Jacob Smith. Like I said, no knock on Jacob, but I think Bryce Young has the higher ceiling here. I'm falling in love with the possible D-line recruiting class of Bryce Young, Cole Mullins, Elijah Russing, and Justin Scott.
Yeah. That'd be elite. Now, I'm going to say I don't expect to land both, so I wouldn't put that out there.
If we get both, we get both.
But another thing about Bryce Young, I see him playing in the Viper position. Mm-hmm. I see him being in that Foskey role or what they wanted Keeley in. He's got the size. He's huge. So I see him either inside or as the Viper. So that's the Viper spot. I think I heard they want Cole as the Viper too.
Yeah, they want him as a Viper as well.
That's going to be interesting. I could see Bryce being, like I said, inside, or since he has the size, being like a Foskey type player or being a Viper. So it's going to be interesting. He's a great get. At first, when I first saw it, like a year ago, or when they first offered him or something, I was just like, it's just a legacy get, right? It's going to be another
Ron Powlus III.
Ron Powlus, exactly. And then I saw his highlights, and I was like, I can dig it, right? And then he's already zoomed up the rankings. So he's a talented player.
Skyrocketing. You know what's crazy? I mean, that his top couple teams were Notre Dame, Duke. I think, who else was up there? I think Georgia Tech was up there. Like, with how good this kid is, I'm surprised he didn't have the Alabamas of the world, the Tennessees and the Georgias after this man, because this kid can flat out play.
I was thinking that. I was just thinking that too, and then in my head, I kind of feel like it's probably because they probably felt like he was a Notre Dame lock, right?
Well, it kind of worried me at first because I always thought he was an Irish or Notre Dame lock, and there were predictions for him back when we played Clemson this past season to land Notre Dame, and I was like, okay, it's just a matter of time. 1 month goes by, 3 months go by, 4 months go. Okay, when's this kid gonna commit? He's been on a ton of visits, and I was like, okay, that's not a good sign. If he was gonna commit to Notre Dame, why wouldn't he commit a long time ago?
It felt like he should have already had the feeling of going to Notre Dame since he grew up with it, has been 50 times. Like, it's like, if you know, you know. Like,
it's almost felt like he was waiting for something that maybe didn't, make itself known, which was maybe that Alabama offer, maybe that Ohio State offer, which scares me because Georgia, Ohio State, and Bama tend to have a tendency to go after Notre Dame commits very late in the process.
We do the same to Georgia. We do the same to Georgia.
So let's go ahead and move on. Our last commit that we'll talk about in terms of 2024, we did get a 2025 commitment, but we'll talk about that on another show. 3-star safety, Kennedy Urlacher. Yes, that is the son of former Chicago Bears NFL Hall of Fame linebacker Brian Urlacher. When I first saw this, Sean, I don't know about you, I thought it was just the namesake. I saw he's a very, very low 3-star. I thought it was just, he's Brian Urlacher's son. So that's why he's getting all this love right now. But as I looked more into him, this kid can flat out play. Notre Dame needs a lot of safety help for next season. What are your thoughts on him committing to the Irish, and what do you think about Kennedy Urlacher being
hard hitter? Period. He's just like his dad. He is a hard hitter. That dude. I mean, I don't know what the Irish plan on doing with him. I know he's listed as a safety, but I know they recruited him as a linebacker. So I'm interested because they do need the safety help if he stays at safety. However, I do know he's preferred at linebacker. So.
Oh God, did you see that hit, man? That was. Ooh.
I told you, hard hitter, man. He is just
he's like a heat-seeking missile.
And it's funny when I first saw him, when I saw Urlacher, I was just like, probably just the name.
Yeah, the same thing I said.
Yeah, I was like, it's probably not the son of Urlacher, but it was, and I was like, now we got 2 legacies in this class, and I expect another in the 2025. Wink, wink.
This is a joke, man, but like having the son of Brian Urlacher on your team, how does that affect recruiting?
Right?
Hey, you can meet my dad if you come to Notre Dame.
Yeah. Same with Bryce Young, and same with Jerome Bettis, I'm sure, when we get that. So it's going to be, Notre Dame.
But overall, really quick, just, what are your final thoughts on Kennedy Urlacher, and what do you think he brings to Notre Dame?
Hard hitting. I mean, that's my description. I think he's a hard hitter. I'm not sold yet on coverage as a safety. Hard hitting. He's not going to start right away. He's a guy that's going to have to learn a little bit, but he's got the tools to be a beast.
He's definitely got the genes too. He's got the genes.
If I had to compare him to a Notre Dame player with hard hitting, it'd be like Botello, right? Remember that punter when he wiped him out?
Oh God, yes, against South Florida. You know what? I will say this. I think Kennedy has a higher ceiling than DJ Brown. I think that. DJ Brown is good, but I really like Kennedy Urlacher. I'm very high on him. I thought DJ Brown's just he's an all right safety, but he's not like.
DJ Brown's a good depth piece.
He's a good depth safety, but he's not like. If I'm wanting to win a national championship, he's not my first pick for my starting safety.
Yep, I'd probably pick Peyton Bowen, right?
Peyton Bowen, man. We could really use Peyton Bowen, couldn't we? Oh, man, that's funny.
I wonder what the transfer thing, what it's going to look like with all these leaving. We have a few spots open, so with 4 spots, we'll see.
Trust me, when Oklahoma gives up 50 points a game this year, Peyton Bowen will think about coming back to Notre Dame. Trust me. I don't know if Notre Dame would want him, but anyway, moving on. The other big news for Notre Dame recently. Obviously we'll start off with Tyler Buckner. Kind of a foregone conclusion, so we won't talk too much about it. Following the boy genius himself, Tommy Rees, to Alabama. Looks like he's going to be the starting quarterback for the Crimson Tide. Does it feel crazy to say that Tyler Buckner wasn't good enough to start at Notre Dame, but he's good enough to be the starting quarterback at Alabama?
Yes, it's crazy. It sounds crazy when you think about it that way, but he was starting next year. There's not many quarterbacks that's going to beat out Sam Hartman, if any at all, right? So he would have started next year.
Man, I don't care. I'll be honest. I don't care if Drake May was on the Notre Dame roster. I just don't know if he would beat out Sam Hartman. Being honest, I just don't.
Yeah. I mean, I wish him the best of luck. He is one of my favorite Notre Dame quarterbacks ever. I was super high on him, and I hope he proves people wrong in Alabama. And that's what I gotta say on it. It is
As long
upsetting.
as long as he doesn't win Alabama a national championship, I'm good.
I hope he does.
Just go to no. Get 10-2. 10-2 every year for Tyler Buckner is fine with me.
If he goes 10-2, he proved everyone right. But if he wins a Heisman or Natty and gets in the NFL, I'm telling you,
Hey, don't wish that on us because I'm hoping that. Okay, what if it's a Sam Hartman versus Tyler Buckner natty? Notre Dame versus Bama for the natty.
if Tyler Buckner wins, of course.
You there, Sean?
Yeah,
You're
my
good.
bad.
But no, could you imagine if that happens? That would be hilarious.
I would, and Tyler Buckner wins.
Drake May better than Sam Hartman.
Yeah, Drake May is
May probably, but I mean, Sam Hartman has more touchdown passes, averaged more yards.
He was a freshman last year. I mean,
No, I know. I'm joking. But no, Drake May he's great. But
I'd
still,
say I'd pick Drake May over Sam Hartman. I'd pick Caleb Williams over Sam Hartman, and then I would probably choose. That's it.
I might have to kick you off the podcast for saying Caleb Williams. But
I'm sorry. You gotta respect it, man. Like
I don't respect the guy that paints his nails FND. I just can't. I can't.
You know what's funny is that, of course, I'm like, F you, man. Like, as a Notre Dame fan, I'm like, stupid.
But if a Notre Dame player did that, we'd probably think that was
funny. Exactly. So I didn't know that.
Oh, okay. That's not true. Anyway,
that's a good topic battle right there. You know, they're both extremely talented, but I would pick Hartman.
Yeah, I would too. Next up, we got Lorenzo Styles, former top 100 receiver recruit for Notre Dame in the 2021 class, joins his brother Sonny back at Ohio State, or should I say the Ohio State, to go play corner. So you're gonna have two Styles in Ohio State. So, what are your thoughts on that? Was that kind of a foregone conclusion as well once he entered his name in the portal?
It was obvious, just like Diggs later will say LSU, right? We knew he was going to play with his brother. It was obvious from the get-go. He went down the depth chart, which is surprising after his freshman year. I'm like, dude, this dude is a beast. He's the next big thing, right? And he just fell apart last year. He fell down the depth chart. Tried cornerback. He was more talented at cornerback coming out of high school than he was at receiver, so I'm not surprised with the change. But I'm going to be mad if I hear Lorenzo Styles pick 6 against Notre Dame in South Bend next year. That's going to frustrate me. So, knock on wood. But he's an extremely talented player. With all of them, I wish him the best of luck. That wasn't surprising hitting the transfer portal. I expected it. I hope we get a transfer coming in to add depth, especially with Caleb Smith, the Virginia Tech transfer, retiring. So we need someone. I don't care if it's from Rhode Island. I don't care if it's from.
Let me ask you this
State.
though: if we get, because I was actually talking to some Notre Dame guys about this. Would you? Because I'm completely against bringing in a transfer receiver. I think I would rather bring in a transfer safety, bring in a transfer D lineman maybe, just for depth reasons. And then maybe if I can get a running back that is fine with sharing the backfield with Audric for one season, maybe rotating with Brian Payne. I'd be fine with that too. But for me, I would rather because I feel like if you add an older receiver, like a 1 year rental, or even a guy that's got like a sophomore, who I know they're interested in Cody Epps from BYU. I think at that point you're stunting the growth of your young receivers in Greathouse and James and Rico Flores. I'd rather see what those guys have right now as freshmen, let them develop for a year, instead of stunting it like we've seen Notre Dame do in the past.
I don't see it as. I mean, I agree. I see it more as I wouldn't want to be in the position we were in last year with like 5, 6 scholarship wide receivers. I'm nervous we're an injury or two away in the fall from having a very thin wide receiver room. I would probably say for transfers, I would want to get a safety, obviously, and then we would have like 2 or 3 more spots. D-line, yeah, I agree. Add a piece of the D-line. And then if there was a tight end, good enough, but no. But offensive guard, offensive line, or a wide receiver for me. I mean, I do think with Logan Diggs' surprise leaving, that blew everyone away. No one expected that. I just am not comfortable. Do you move Tyree back to running back and get a receiver?
No. It does kind of worry me that they're looking at Cody Epps because he's a slot receiver. And that's where Tyree's right now is a slot. So I don't know if that means that, hey, Tyree hasn't looked good at receiver. They don't feel confident in him at receiver. I mean, obviously we didn't get to see enough of Tyree in the spring game in slot. Because Tyler was just awful in that game. But I don't know, man. I just don't want to see it work.
I would. I mean, here's the thing: we have Audric, and then we have Jadarian Price coming back from his injury. We have Love coming in as a freshman, which I doubt a freshman's going to break out at running back. Jabron Payne is good. He looked decent. He's not Logan Diggs. I would just have Tyree back at running back and use him as a change of pace. I mean, he's not bad at the running back position, especially as a receiving back. I think he could.
The thing with Tyree, though, and I think you might agree with me, is he's fast once he gets past the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, but he's very one-dimensional.
He's not like the thing. That's the thing. It's always frustrated to be about Tyree is he has that track speed. He's one missed tackle away from taking it to the house. The thing with Tyree is that he just can't break tackles. That's the thing that's been an issue for him. Is I don't know if it's he just doesn't have the strength, but the way he runs, it's not like Audric Estime where it's going to be very rare that Estime goes off for like a 60-yard touchdown.
Estime does. I mean, he didn't even look for holes. He just runs, makes his own.
He just runs through. I feel like sometimes Tyree gets caught dancing too much, which then what kills him because people gave Kyron Williams crap for dancing in the backfield too much. Kyron Williams averaged 5.5 yards a carry at Notre Dame. So, obviously, he was doing something right. So,
he broke 60 yards at Clemson on the first play of the game back in 2020.
Oh, yes. I mean, I don't know. I would prefer to see what Payne does because I personally think Payne, I think he's kind of identical to, he's a mixture of Audric and Logan Diggs. I think that's what he's powerful and he's shifty.
I think we're thin at running back. We went from being very, very deep at the position.
Let me ask you this. What if Logan Diggs, do you think there's any validity that maybe Logan Diggs left because he felt the heat from Jabron Payne and Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price?
Jeremiah Love hasn't even stepped on campus. Yes, Jadarian Price balled out last year, but he's recovering from an injury. We knew he was going to be like the starter with the like it. I didn't. I don't, even if he felt the heat, you don't just run away. I think that's just. I think he probably just wants to go back home. When Brian Kelly left, he was extremely close to transferring then, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, um, I think he's going to go to LSU and be closer to home.
But
Or
I
he
guess
wants
I'll
to
end it
go
on this.
somewhere.
I'll end it on this. So I guess my point is I would rather have Audric than Logan. I think
Yes.
Audric is the better back.
But
And you know what? People, and including me, all of last year said, why the hell are you taking Audric Estime out of the game? And you're only giving him 10 carries. When we all know Audric Estime, I want him to get 20 carries a game. Because if you try tackling Audric Estime 20 times, he's going to wear down that defense. And I heard people
yeah,
say, well, Audric's going to get tired. He's going to get gassed. Well, okay, then you're not meant to be an every down back then, are you? Kyron did it with very limited help from Chris Tyree.
you're right.
So why
I'm
can't Audric
interested.
Estime do that?
You're right, and I do think Jeremiah Love is talented enough to. I do think Jadarian Price would be the better number two, based off what we saw in the spring of last year. I mean, the staff loved him as a freshman, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm nervous. Is he going to be back? Maybe he will be back to himself, and this is all just stupid. But who knows? Who knows? It's a thin room. Logan Diggs leaving was a shocker, though. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
what? You know, it was
Yeah,
shocking,
and
and I do think that, like I said, safety obviously that Rhode Island safeties I expect to go to Notre Dame. So, um, then you look at other needs: linebackers good, cornerbacks good, D line. I mean, you bring in 3 or 4 transfers. I'd say
mm-hmm.
3: safety, defensive line, and something on offense, whether it's a running back, wide receiver, or offensive.
Do you maybe give a scholarship to one of the walk-ons? I mean,
Yeah. Yes.
maybe Luke Tulich. You know, he was a 3-star guy that had D1 offers. Do you maybe give him an offer or a scholarship
Definitely.
just to fill out the scholarship?
They're going to. Yeah.
Okay.
They're going to give a scholarship to what's that safety's name? He balled out in the spring game.
I can't think.
He had like 6-7 tackles. He's a walk-on.
I know who you're talking about, and I can't think off the top of my head.
I could see him getting an offer, especially with how thin safety is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be interesting. Hopefully they get a commitment in the transfer portal here shortly, because the longer of being unknown makes me nervous.
Mm.
The transfer portal was getting smaller and smaller. Just need a body, right, at that point, to add something, add competition, add depth, right? So.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree. But we'll end it on that. As always, this has been the Gold Standard. I'm your host, Ryan Fravel, with my buddy Sean over at ND Forever on Twitter. Go follow us on Twitter down below. We'll be back next Wednesday for another show. Hopefully Notre Dame gets a few more commitments by then. More to talk about. But as always, this has been the Gold Standard. Go Irish.
Go Irish.